All right. So today we are going to start with another type of purchase scenario, which is called a request for quotation. So request for quotation, I think Nelson, you are well aware of what request for quotation is, isn't it so?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So request for quotation is a simple process. For example, whenever we are trying to buy an item from the vendor and we have a list of vendors, so obviously we'll try to buy from the vendor which is going to give us the best price, maybe best unit price or like good delivery date or good quality. So whenever there are multiple vendors involved, so you can always have a kind of bidding going on there. So you can always choose from vendors. So how to choose from vendors? So for that sort of process is called request for quotation. So basically what you are doing is that you are sending a list of items that you want to individual vendor, and then vendors are going to send their replies, which means they are going to bid, okay, we'll sell you at this unit price with this discount and probably in this amount of days. So then what is going on is the person who is receiving these replies from vendors, he or she is going to enter these reply into the system. And finally, so they always have a date limit set. For example, I want that my PO should be confirmed after 10 days. So if I send my request for quotation today, then I'll wait for 10 days. Maybe all the vendors will reply. Maybe some of them will reply. So that doesn't matter. When the time comes for the expiry, so at that time you have to compare that which is giving us the best deal. So we'll choose that vendor, we'll make sure that he gets the PO. So that process will be called accepting request for quotation from a certain vendor. So when you do that, then rest of the quotation for rest of the vendors, so you reject those. So we'll go through this process in Dynamics AX. It's the same process, like nothing new, day-to-day business scenario, a very common scenario. So we'll talk about how we do this in Dynamics 365. So here we can see the basic overview. Like the first step will be creation of request for quotation. Then we'll obviously select one or more vendors. Then we can add a kind of questionnaire if you want that. For example, if there are certain questions that you want to ask vendors besides the unit prices and discounts and all, then you can do that also. Then you are going to send the request for quotation to the vendors. And after sending the request for quotation to vendors, maybe you forgot something. Like, for example, you forgot to add a questionnaire only. So you can create an amendment. So you can amend that request for quotation and then resend it again. Then once you do that, maybe after some days or maybe probably on the same date, you'll get the vendor replies. So you keep on entering the vendor replies and the questionnaire. Also, there is something called scoring. We'll talk about that. For example, there can be a list of certain parameters, for example, the quality of goods or the vendor rating. So you can have all these self-defined. So you can also score the replies that we call replies in Dynamics AX. Then finally, we are going to compare the request for quotation replies. Like this is going to come in a very nice sheet where all the vendors and all the total prices will be showing up. So it's a kind of a comparative statement. You can compare the replies and then you can accept the best reply, and obviously the purchase order will be created. So this is the overview process of request for quotation. Also, we can have like request for quotation. We'll be creating the manual request for quotation today so that we can have a go through all these steps. Otherwise, if you are involved in purchase requisition, which we will cover after request for quotation, from there also request for quotation can be created. Or when you are running the master planning or the planned purchase orders, for example, planned purchase orders is something, uh, for example, the system will suggest you, okay, so this is the amount of purchase orders that you need to create. So basically these are three ways, but to make sure that we cover every aspect of this, we'll be creating using manual, because if you know manual, then these will be like very small things to do. So we'll try to create the request for quotation manually. Rest all the process is same as we discussed. So Coming to RFQ parameters. So procurement and sourcing in setup and procurement and sourcing parameters, we have a special dedicated tab which is for request for quotation. So these are the kinds of defaults that you want. So you can set them here. For example, purchase order type. Once the request for quotation is confirmed, obviously you want a purchase order type, purchase order. So you can do that. You can have a solicitation types. We'll discuss about this, how to set up this, and we can have days of offset, for example 10 days. If you write 10 here, then after 10 days it will be like, it will calculate the expired date, and all of these can be overridden on the request for quotation. So these are just for the you can say for default. So working days, if you enable the working days, it will make sure that only those 10 days are added which are working, excluding Saturdays and Sundays, if you set up your company calendar that way. Okay. Mode of delivery, delivery terms, terms of payment. So they will all default onto the request for quotation. So you can edit some of these here and, according to your own requirement. So once we are done with the RFQ parameters, then we have something called scoring methods, as I told you. So it's a kind of a scoring method can be said a criteria that can be used to compare bids. So you can define the criteria yourself. You can add any new criteria, and that too you can add range from and range to. So basically when you are going to enter the replies from vendors, then you can add a lot of things here. So you can have quality rating, you can have vendor rating, maybe any other variables that you want to add, and also you can define the ranges. So entering the replies from vendors, also entering the various values that you want. So when you will try to compare all of them at once, so you will get the total of these rating as well as total of pricing and discount, so that finally you can compare, okay, this is the one that I want to buy. For example, quality is not a variable in the sales order line or the purchase order line. So you can add a quality of goods here. Okay, so let me say one vendor is giving you a discount of 10%, another vendor is giving you a discount of 15%, but the vendor who is giving you the discount of 10% actually has a quality rating of, let me say, if you define range from 0 to 10. So if that has a quality rating of 9, and the one who is giving you more discount has a quality rating very bad, for example, the quality of goods are not up to mark, let me say 2. So you'll try to go for the first vendor with the less discount. So this helps to think more clearly, like which one, if you have certain criteria obviously defined. In my implementations I only found one company who was using this process, as they were like all fine with the pricing and discounts only, because they knew their vendors very well, so that wasn't an issue. So it's a kind of thing which is a kind of flexibility that Dynamics 365 provides. If you want, you can make use of this, and these scoring methods are actually tagged with these solicitation types. So you can create a new solicitation type if you have different sets of these variables, just attach these. So all you have to do is, when creating a request for quotation, as soon as you select that solicitation type, then these scoring methods, the variables in these scoring methods will already be added. So these are the solicitation types. They are also configurable. So it's in procurement and sourcing, setup, and RFQ and solicitation type. You can add new, and right now here you can add the scoring method. So just to link this scoring method, we can create new solicitation types. So this is like the kind of configuration that we need. There is nothing more here, I guess. Then we have to start with the process. We already know. So we'll create RFQ, assign the solicitation type. We are going to add the line items, the items that we want to buy. Then we are going to add vendors, from which vendors we are going to buy. Then we'll be sending the RFQ, and then we are going to, score bids and enter the replies, and then accept and reject the RFQ. So first we'll walk through the list of screenshots, and then we'll try to create this in Dynamics 365. So for example, to create RFQ, then you'll have to navigate to procurement and sourcing, request for quotations, all request for quotations. There we have this new button. So you'll click on this new button, and then this sort of form will appear. So you can define the solicitation type here. So once you do that, and these are automatically defaulting from the procurement and sourcing request for quotation parameters. So yeah, that is a good thing. So if you don't want to specify this again and again, so just specify it there. So after creation, now again the same concept as in purchase order, we saw the header view and the line view. The same thing is here. So you just have to add the lines that you want to buy. So right now I've added an item here. Expiration date will be automatically calculated. So you can say its delivery date is 12 and expiration date is 22 because the offset days were 10. So this is the way in which the line items are added. Once you add the line items, then you can hop on to the header view. So there you will be adding the vendors. So right now I've added two vendors here. So I'm going to send RFQ to both of these vendors. So after this, we'll be clicking on the send button. Once you do that, it will start the process of sending. Then we can go and receive the replies. So once you are receiving the replies, the bid progress will say that purchaser is updating. So you can update the unit prices, whatever the vendor has sent you. You can fill the questionnaire, you can score bids, and after that, you are going to accept a request for quotation from a certain vendor. So once you accept this, then the forms will open up, which will say rejecting request for quotation. Because if you have accepted one, then just as soon as you click this OK, a new form will appear, which will say rejecting request for quotation. Because one is accepted, then others have to be rejected. So just don't get confused here. That why is it saying? Well, it is saying for this vendor. So right now we accepted for this vendor 101 accepting, then we had another vendor so it's trying to reject for 1002. So this is the place where usually people get confused that why is it saying so.
I have a doubt. Sorry for.
Yes,
We are accepting only after we see the points or we see the discounts, right? So
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes,
yeah. So we wouldn't go till it's only after that process. Till then, it will
exactly,
be still be an open one, and
exactly,
yeah, okay,
exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
once you finally when you decide, okay, I have all the data I needed, and today is the last day that and I really need to confirm a PO. So you'll just select the best deal and you'll just select it. I'll show you. Actually, some of the screenshots are missing here because I'll just show you in the system. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So let me go to the system and there we'll see. Okay. So procurement and sourcing. Let me see if I need to change anything in the parameters tab. So this is where you can specify various defaults. So I think I'm all good here. One more thing. Uh, See, if we are usually what is happening is we are providing them some sort of vendor portal. On the vendors, they are having access to only a part of our system where they can actually enter their bids. So vendor collaboration is something which we call it in Dynamics AX. Dynamics 365 vendor portal was there in, you can say, in Dynamics AX. So just make sure you have this boolean enabled. Purchaser can edit vendor bids. So basically, we are the purchaser, and I was updating. So make sure this boolean is enabled. Otherwise, you won't be able to enter the RFQ replies. Because what system is expecting is maybe you have set up the system
Okay.
and enabled vendor collaboration so that vendors have access to that particular request for quotation page, and maybe they'll enter the reply, because this is usually what is happening when you have an interactive system. So you are basically giving access to various vendors. Not only this, notification is sent to those vendors that the following bid is open. Perhaps you would like to add your pricing and discounts there. So the
So
vendor
do we
goes and
have a
we have
portal?
when
Can we
we
portal
have
where
some.
we can?
Yes, we have something called vendor collaboration. So a lot of setups and a lot of things are required. So if you want to explore that. So it's not very difficult, but yeah, it is something which is a little bit of a new. So you have to set up system in such a way, then you have to assign that. So and also then you have to make sure how the integration is working, because that is a good amount of work, because what kind of system is the vendor having, so how you are going to provide them the access. So
Okay.
that will bring a lot of variables into account. So I was just giving you the idea that why we need this boolean, because
Yeah.
as far as I've done some of the implementations, it is always the purchaser who are, because very few people are actually using that. Almost every time the people from company are the only one who are entering the replies, because even most of the vendors do not agree to do that. They are just sending their, okay, see, we received your PO, we received your RFQ on mail, let me like send you pricing and discounts on the mail. So this is the most common scenario which happens in day-to-day
Yeah.
life. So the purchaser gets that mail, okay, then opens the mail and just adds the details. Because, and this is important, because for example, let us suppose there are 20 items and there are 40 vendors.
Mm.
So it is not a good idea that you cannot open 40 mails at once and try to compare. So as soon as the replies keep coming, the purchaser he just adds those details, so that at the end of the time, when the final delivery time is there, so he will just click on compare replies and he will get a very nice sort of summary from every vendor. So it
Okay.
helps the user to make a quick decision. So that is the reason. So just make sure you can, just this has
Yeah.
to be enabled. Okay. So once we do that, now also we can say that we see that in accounts payable, you will not see all those requests for quotations and all, because that is strictly related to the procurement department. So request for quotation, I'll click on all request for quotations. Let me try to create a new. Also, we can see that we have two status types here, the lowest status and the highest status. So this is what happens. For example, you have received a reply from one vendor, but still replies are remaining from other vendors. Then the highest will be received, but the lowest will be sent. So this is how this thing works. So yeah, just it really helps you to know that at what is the progress of current RFQ. So you can say rejected, accepted, which means it's almost close. That the few vendors was rejected and maybe one was accepted. Okay, so
So
this
higher
is a
status is accepted, like, once you.
yes. Once you accept it, the highest status will become accepted, and the lowest one will become rejected. Because once you accept, then obviously you reject some others.
Like
So
if it is open, there won't be any status or anything. If it's just an
if it is
open.
open, it will be like in the starting, you will see created and created. Okay, so this is
Okay.
how you'll get an idea. Let us try to create one.
Okay.
So let me document title, not a mandatory step though, but anyway, you can write, let me say test RFQ XYZ. Now this is the solicitation type. So it's defaulting, so I can just select this. I've added some
So
scoring
solicitation
criteria.
type is something like a for which project you are asking or for which particular thing you are
Yes,
trying
I've
to.
I've I've created it to define my scoring method. Basically, this is the
Okay.
most important, because my the list of my variables were different. So I've added two variables: quality average, and user can rate it from 1 to 15, and vendor rating if you have. So I just just added these. Maybe the
Okay.
companies will have it a totally different way, but anyway, just for the sake of demo, I just try to show you that you can have any amount of variables here along with pricing and discount, which you will definitely enter. So maybe this is the thing you want to enter to make a better decision, which from which one to
Yeah.
buy. So once I add this one, can add site and warehouse. So let me add site and warehouse. I'll click on OK. So this is the line view and the header view, same as in purchase order.
Mm.
So let me try to add my test item, which I created. Once I do that, see now it is showing the lowest status created, highest status created, right? So let me say I want to buy 50 pieces, and let us see what unit price the vendor is going to give us along with discounts if possible. Once we do that, now we don't have to enter anything. But anyway, if you want to edit some of these, feel free to do so. I'll click on header, and now this is the place where we are going to enter the vendors. As you can see, we still cannot click on send because we do not have vendors assigned.
Okay.
So I'll click on vendor. Let me add vendor that we created. I'll add this one. I'll add another vendor. Let me add this one. I hope everything is fine with this one. I think address or something like that is missing. Okay, I'll add this one. So once we do that, now we can click on send. So lines added, vendors added, you can click on send. So if you click on send, now it's saying, okay, so these are the vendors we are going to send the request for quotation, and this is the item for which we are
Okay.
sending it. And I say, okay, we can send it. Now the status will be sent. So lowest status and highest status is sent. Okay, so this is how it is working. Actually, they start to differ once you start receiving the replies, because prior to that, like, there is nothing different you are doing on both sides.
Uh,
Once you do that, yes.
is it only for like, items or anything? Can we use it for something if it's something like a design thing? If it's an IT project, probably some services, how many people, how much onboarding, everything, those kind of thing, or
Yes, you can
high
just create.
SMS. Yeah.
Yes, you can just create. You can create a service item, and you can do it for the service item as well. So not an issue with that.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so once you do that, and so I thought also, okay, we forgot to add something. Let me say you want to edit the quantities in the lines here, that I don't want to buy 50, I want to buy 100, or if you want to just make any kind of changes now, so you'll have to click on create amendment. It's now available because we've already sent. The request
Okay.
for quotation general is also created just like any other general. So I'll click on create an amendment. So once you do that, we can say the status is saying under amendment. Okay. So let me try to add a questionnaire. So these are the defined list of questions. So I'll select it from the system only. So there is a place. If you just Google how to add questionnaire, there is a setup you can add. Create a questionnaire and add your question. So I'm just selecting it from the already existing questions. Let me select this, click on OK. So this is one change I wanted to make, and another change is I want now 70 pieces. Once I do that, I've made my changes to RFQ and I want to resend them. So I'll click on finalize now. So this sort of wizard will pop up. So you don't have to do anything, just click on next. So I've not configured email. So, but anyway, let us click on next and it will say that it's finalized. You're not ready to finalize. Okay, click on next. Okay, so no vendor emails were provided, but anyway, we have finalized our RFQ. So this is how you can make or edit changes in the request for quotation. So once you do that, so you can see the status is sent. So you can have a view here. Sent the same thing. Vendor account multiple means it is sent to multiple vendors. It's also a possibility that you just want to ask for the prices. Then you can still create an RFQ and send it to one vendor. So that is also a thing. So once you do that, now let us say that replies are coming from vendors. We'll click on manage replies. Once you do that, so you have here two separate forms, one for one vendor, this is for another vendor. Let me say the reply came from this vendor 1001. What I'll do is I'll click on edit RFQ reply. Right now you can see reply process not started. As soon as I click on edit RFQ reply, new form will open up. If you continue, the vendor will not be able to make or submit updates. Do you want to continue? Yes. Now you can see purchaser is updating. So we are going to update whatever is needed. Let me say this vendor is saying us that I'll give you this for, let me say, $700 each. And so these are all the things that you can enter in the replies, discount and all, and price unit charges, whatever you want to specify. So that will not be an issue. Let me say 20. So we can click on save and submit. We can directly click on save, we can click on submit. It threw an error. Please complete the RFQ questionnaire. Okay. So we should complete that as well because we added a questionnaire. Let me complete the questionnaire. So these are some random questions. Along, you can configure all these questions by yourself. It's a very simple task. So let me select any kind of answer, any random answer, because I'm not concerned about what the question is right now. Just for demo purpose, I'll click on. I think we have total of 4 questions. Okay, click on end. The complete questionnaire has been saved. It's totally fine. We've done that. Now let me click on submit. Okay, so we submitted. So now it's saying submitted by purchaser. Okay, so in the header view also, I think we had that bid scoring. So let me select a vendor rating of 5. Let me say a quality average of 7. So it will give us the total score of 12. So we'll be able to see this value also during comparative statement. And if you have a certain kind of rank, maybe you can give that rank also based on the score. Let me say I'll give it a rank of 20 or a 10. So I'll click on save. Now, if you look at lines, status is received. I'll close this form. Can you see the difference now? Lowest
Yeah.
status is sent,
Sent.
highest is received. Because sent was the last status. Received
Yeah.
because we received at least one reply, but not all. So
Yeah.
once you receive all the replies, it will be received. Okay. So this is
Oh,
how
okay.
this thing works. So now
Yeah.
let me try to receive the reply from another vendor. Let us suppose this reply came afterwards. So I think we entered for this one. So I'm gonna enter the reply for this one. I'll click edit RFQ reply. Let me say now this vendor is giving us a good deal. Okay, first I'll complete this questionnaire, otherwise it will throw an error. So first, second, third, and fourth questionnaire submitted. Let me say this one is giving us a lot better deal, $600 per piece. So now I can click on submit. Also, let me say his scores were pretty good. So vendor rating, if there is any variable as such, I'll give it 8, and quality is up to the mark, I'll give it 9, because of which let me increase its rank to 20. So these are all the variables, they depend on business to business, how the companies
Yeah.
are using these variables. So it's not like something very much hard coded. So once you do that, now you've received replies. So received. So let me think that you've received all the replies and now you want to create a PO. So you'll click on compare replies. This will give you the summary. Okay. So if you had 10 vendors, it would have given you the summary of 10. So this first one is the header, and it will be followed by the, for example, there are four items, then the four lines will be there. Then one header, then four lines. So it is showing us clearly, uh, like this one is far better. I think it's providing us a far better deal. So what it will do is that, for example, if you have four, five, or let me say 100 line items, so it will add all the values and it will give you the sum here. But right now we had only one line item. This so quantity, unit price, and everything, and line discounts, everything will be showing up here. In the end, it will give you how much it is going to cost you, the final
Yeah.
amount. Okay. Also, it is going to provide you the kind of score. So this score also looks good. And this is also your variable, maybe how you are deciding the rank should be. So I think this is offering me a good deal as compared to other one. So I'll just click on any one header. So this, if as soon as I click on header, all the lines will be selected. Now I'll click it on accept.
Okay.
So this is the form accepting request for quotation for vendor Apple. So I'll click on OK now. So now it is going to create a purchase order for this vendor. And you will see another form popping up requesting the rejection of quotation. Because this is for second vendor, I'll click on OK, no issue. Others should be rejected. So you can say the purchase order 967 has been created. So let's have a look at that purchase order. 967. Let me filter it with vendor name. Okay, this is the one. You can see same amount, same prices, everything copied. All you have to do is just click on confirm and do the receipt and invoicing. That is all.
Yeah.
So this is how the process of uh, request for quotation from initial to the end state. So this is how this works. So I would like to ask you any kind of doubts, Krishna and Nelson, regarding this process.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So once we do that, I think now we can move on to something called purchase requisition. So purchase requisition is also a part of procurement process. For example, right now we know that request for quotation is used when you have multiple vendors. So just getting the bids and creating a PO. Also, if there is a kind of a raw material which is like being ordered on a day-to-day basis, then probably you already know who is your best vendor. So directly you are going to create a purchase order instead of wasting your time in request for quotation. So that is also a scenario. Actually, 70 to 80% of the materials are directly created using PO because you already know who is going to provide you the best deals. Probably you are using that vendor for like years and years. So that is the kind of business scenarios I encountered whenever there are some new vendors for some new items. So obviously you are going to make the use of request for quotation if they are providing you several bids. Also, most of the companies they do not like to create a PO directly. They want that a kind of purchase requisition should be first submitted, then someone from the higher authority is going to approve that okay, this looks fine, you can go ahead and create the PO now. So for that particular purpose, Also, Dynamics 365 provides the ability to do that. So that sort of thing is called purchase requisition. So the only difference is you don't want to create a PO directly. You want to, you want that document to go through several approval mechanisms, and then only you want the final PO to be created. So this is the reason we are using purchase requisition. So again, this is also a step prior to the creation of PO, because PO creation is the final thing. That is the official confirming document that we are going to buy from a certain vendor. But before that, you can have request for quotation, you can have purchase requisition. As a matter of fact, you can have a purchase requisition followed by request for quotation, then final conversion of PO. Let me say there are some new items which are like which you don't buy usually. So in my implementations, I always face the people were using purchase requisitions whenever there was a little bit of an unusual demand. Maybe some different kind of machinery was there, some different kind of materials were there which were not consumed regularly on in the production line. So so this was the kind of a policy that those people made, that whenever you are going to order like the items from various different categories which we normally don't buy, we are not going to create a purchase order. Instead, you are going to submit me the purchase requisition. I'll review it thoroughly, and then only I can, like, maybe I'll ask you to change that, or maybe I'll ask someone else to approve, or only, but finally that thing is approved, then only an official PO should be made. So that is the most common scenario we are going to use purchase requisition. So let us get started with the creation of purchase requisition.
So it's
So
like an
Krishna,
approval process that
yeah,
goes through different levels. Like, if
exactly.
someone is ordering just 100 items, then there is a particular, or this amount is being spent from the company, then there is a particular manager who's approved. Or if the amount
Yes,
is more than something, then you need two approvals or three approvals,
right.
probably
You
the
can,
higher.
yes,
Yeah,
you can definitely configure that. You can definitely configure that because the workflow is used, it's very much flexible. Maybe you can have a single approver to approve, maybe you can have multiple
yeah,
approvers to approve that. So if you want that sort of process before, like, confirming the PO, because PO confirmation means you've already sent it, the mail sent
yeah,
to the vendors, and you're just going to receive it.
yeah,
So obviously then, so this is a good method, and you don't want to waste that, you don't want to create PO and then cancel PO, because that
yeah,
doesn't look very good, right? So
yeah,
you can, it's better to cancel purchase requisition instead of creating POs and canceling POs. So that is like a kind of a messy work. So purchase requisition. So let's start with purchase requisition. So again, purchase requisition will be in the procurement and sourcing department. So this is the purchase requisition. So it's bifurcated in several ways, like all purchase requisitions prepared by me that require my action. Though the process is
yeah.
very simple, we will create purchase requisition. We will send it to the approving authority. The authority will either approve that. It means, well, good, we can create a PO now. Either the authority will reject that, sorry, it cannot be done. So the process will stop there only, or maybe the person will delegate it to someone else. Okay, I think you should approve it. So all sorts of these things will go here. So all purchase requisition, one more important thing to note is that if you click on all purchase requisitions, you'll find the new button. So this will not be enabled, because purchase requisition is created by anyone who is from the from the organization. So that user should be linked with the worker. It's created by worker. So to make sure this is not happening, you first have to navigate to system administration, users, and try to link a worker with your user. So if I select my
So
ID
what is
is
the
this.
difference like a worker and a user?
See, user ID is someone who is accessing the system.
Okay.
So every person who even wants to log into the system should have a user ID. But it's not necessary that that user is actually a worker. Worker means someone who is working in the procurement department, an employee
Oh, okay,
perhaps.
okay, okay. Yeah. Fine.
So what we'll do is we will navigate to human resources. We will click on employees or worker. Just click on employees, and try to create an employee. Okay. So
Hmm.
only you have to enter the name and details so that you can finally link it with the worker. So you can see right now my user ID is linked with a person. Now this person is actually a worker. So these are all the persons. So all you have to do is click on new, write first name, middle name. Not even that is even that is not required. Just first name, last name, employment date, and this. Let me write it here. Test 212. Employment start date. Let me make it yesterday and terminate never. So test one, test 212. So just hire. Only these are the details that you need to add. So right now we will have this worker now. So test 212. So now you can do is click on the user. So if you click on edit, you will be able to select your, that worker. So once that is tagged, you can click on save. Then only that new button will become enabled. Otherwise, you will be confused. Why is it not enabled? Okay. So right now I
Okay.
already have tagged here, so I really don't need to tag another one. So
Where did you
let's
tag once again? The
here in
test.
the person.
Okay, in the
Person.
person we have to enter if we have created some test name
Yes,
or
yes.
something.
Now,
Yeah,
this
you have
field,
to enter.
this yes, this field will
Yeah.
be
Okay.
enabled, and it will show you the drop down where all of these employees will be showing up. So you
Oh,
can
okay.
select
Yeah.
your own. Okay.
Okay.
Right now it's grayed out because I've already selected one, and I'll have to click on maintain versions, remove this, then you can add another. Okay.
Okay.
So that's not an issue. So procurement and sourcing, all purchase requisitions. So let me try to create a new purchase requisition. I'll click on new. Let me give it a title. Let me say test 919. So I'll click on OK. It's purchase requisition number 233. So here again, you can add various line items. Let me try to add a line, the same item that we created. Also, another important thing here is um, if you want to add an item number, it should be present in certain procurement category. So procurement category is like every system has one procurement category where you have the bifurcation of various categories and you have products added there. Okay. So maybe you will get confused in starting. I cannot see my item number. Why is it so? Because it should be linked with the procurement category. So procurement and sourcing, there is something called procurement category. So basically, this is where you have bifurcated everything. So there is this is a kind of category. So you can have subcategories also. So inside any of these subcategories, categories, so you can always have products. So my was office machines. So I added my product here. So once you add that, so then that item number will become visible there. So this is another important step to do. So you can have calculators, you can have list of calculators here. So all the products that you have created should actually belong from one category to make sure you can have a purchase requisition for that. Okay. So as soon as I entered the item number, it automatically took the procurement category as office machines because this number is linked with this. So it's not uh, a very difficult thing to do. It's simple. You just have to make sure that you have a category and your product is added into category. Okay, so this is one thing to take note of because this is the second place where new people will always have issues. The new button is not allowed.
Usually, Bipin, usually when you install the software for a customer, it comes from with some data, or you need to start from scratch.
We need to start from scratch whenever we are doing implementation.
Okay.
See, this is already pre-made data. I mean, not even a single configuration is done. You have to first upload items. You have to upload customers, vendors, customer groups, vendor groups, customer addresses, vendor addresses, and even prior to doing that, you have to generate all the number sequences. So you can generate all the number sequences by clicking on generate, which will give you the number sequences of purchase orders, item numbers, product numbers. Then you have to configure especially those number sequences which you want according to your own format, because you cannot have random number sequences for everyone. For example, sales order number sequence, invoice number sequence. So that is very much specific to a company. So you have to edit those number sequences first. Then you have to start by creating a site, a warehouse. Then like first you have to configure your own legal entity in organization, administration, legal entities, and then adding your own address. So everything starts from scratch when you have that
Oh,
new system. Not
okay.
even a single configuration is done. Okay, so you start from here. First you make changes to your own legal entity. So organization, administration, here legal. So this is the first thing you do. You first create a legal entity. Even the legal entity is not created. So you first create the legal entity, then you
Okay.
navigate to that legal entity. By default, only DAT, this legal entity is present. This one, it has no data. So you create legal entity, then you navigate to this legal entity. Then after doing that, you just create your own addresses, just add some of the details for yourself. So once you create the legal entity, then you start in your legal entity, and then you start creating your sites, your warehouses, uploading all these items, masters, and everything. Then
Hmm.
you have to, the most important thing is then the ledger configuration. So once you go to the general ledger, so obviously you need all types of accounting things, because you cannot even
Correct.
create a single PO unless you have the posting profiles. Posting profiles means you cannot create posting profiles if you don't have the vendor groups. So obviously, then the first thing after creation of legal entity is that you have to make sure your ledger is correct. So you first have to upload the chart of accounts, because until and unless you don't have accounts, you cannot even define the account structures. So this is how you first create your chart of accounts. The main accounts are then added. So a lot of things, a lot of configuration is done.
Mm.
So it is done with a group of people, a team of people. So probably 4 or 5 of you might be doing this. So during the first time I did it with a team of like 6 or 7 people, so all functional consultants.
Is there a
And
way to import this information?
yes, almost every information is imported. Information is
Uh,
imported using a very simple procedure, and you can do
DMF.
that. DMF, right? You can do that using the workspaces and data management. So here, there you can import and export all the all the those entities will be present. So you can just do that. That is a very simple process.
okay.
So things are improved. So this is how like the starting begins for any project. So I did it once within a team of 6, 7, and then the next two implementations I did it scratch from scratch. So I just had one intern with me, so I just gave some of that work to him, and the rest everything was like. Then I became very much familiar. I also know what are the errors that you'll usually face. Some of them are the system errors. The line number is not there, so you have to configure that particular number sequence. So yeah, so this is the way the project starts. So everything like slowly and steadily everything comes to take shape. Then finally you can run the scenarios, the various cycles. So then you ask the users, okay, come on, just test whether everything is working fine or not. And then you refresh the system again, delete the data. So this is how the configuration is done for any new implementation. So we were talking about purchase requisition. We can add that line. After adding the line, let me say I want this information only. I want 10 pieces. So this is what I want to buy. So right now the status is draft. So I click on save. Inventory site dimension is okay. I forgot to mention. I'll click on the dimension. I'll click on save. So once you do that, then we have something called workflow. So I would like to talk about the workflow a little bit. So workflows, system provide workflows everywhere for every module. In accounts payable also, you will have certain workflows. For example, here you can see account payable workflows. So every module has its inbuilt workflows. So a lot of workflows will be present, which are like provided by the system. So you can use this workflow. All the workflows work in the same way. Workflow is like a type of a checkpoint in any kind of process. So approval, it will go through approval and then only the postings will be done. So this is how, and you can have workflows everywhere. For example, right now in procurement and sourcing, why we are having a look at this workflow is we can see that a workflow called purchase requisition is actually active. So purchase requisition review. So this workflow is active, and if we look at its versions, so this one is active right now. So this is the workflow which is working here. So configuring a workflow is not at all that difficult. You just have to click on new, you have to select your workflow, and you can also open and view the workflow. I'll give you a basic example since as a consultant you should know how to use this workflow, but it's not going to work in Google Chrome. I have to open the Internet Explorer. So I'll try to show you the details of any workflow. In Dynamics AX, this was very simple. Only this is the one process which I find is a little bit, taking a longer time in D365. In AX, it was like a simple form. You just have to open up, click on OK, and workflow editor was present there. But here you have to download the workflow editor first. So let me copy this. Okay, so we have this workflow now. So if I click on this one, purchase requisition review, it will download some executable, then run it, and finally we'll be able to open the workflow editor. Let me try to run this file. It's asking me to sign in. Because workflow configuration is also very important. So a lot of this is something like companies make a lot of use, especially in the accounting department. For example, you can create journal entries, but you cannot post them unless they are reviewed by some approving authority. So that is a place where we can add the workflow. Not only this, but in the simple purchase order creation, as we created a purchase order and clicked on confirm, you can have a workflow there also, that you can only create the workflow and you cannot confirm it. You have to first send it. So purchase order workflow is also present, which most of the companies make use of it. So as a consultant, we should know how to, create a workflow and edit a workflow. So this is the workflow. So when we clicked on here, we clicked on new and we selected purchase requisition workflow. So we can have the purchase requisition workflow here. So all you have to do is just drag this here. So this sort of element will apply here. So start, and you have to link the start with this workflow and click on end. So this is the thing. So there are some other kind of configurations you can do. So if you click here and if you double click here, then you can see the basic settings and all. So assignment, basically you can see the assignment. So right now assignment means who is going to assign. So you can have a workflow user hierarchy. So a lot of things are there, you can explore a lot of them, but this is the most commonly used configuration. You are going to assign someone who can approve. So right now it's a user, and I've selected the user who can approve. So I've selected myself and some other person also. So basically right now I'll be creating a purchase requisition, so I'll be a user. So user can only submit, but the user won't approve it. But just for the sake of demo, I have made myself an approver also. So after some time I will get the button to approve, so I can approve that. We can have a time limit of what days and what days available per week. We
So
can
every
have a
approval
complete
runs through a workflow.
what.
Every approval
Yes.
runs through a workflow.
Yes, obviously, if workflow is intended only for this purpose, that someone is going to
Okay.
submit and someone is going to approve. So if you need that kind of checking mechanism,
And this
then
is common
obviously
for
the
sales, for procurement, for everything, right?
yes. So this is for especially for purchase requisition. You can have these workflows for, as I just showed you, that you have 7 or 8 workflows in almost every module. You can have it for purchase order also. So yeah, it depends totally on you, if you want that sort of thing or not, because it is obviously going to take some time in the processing of an order. So it's a kind of decision. It's a kind of a business decision. Some people like to have workflows in purchase order itself, so that is a good thing. But in purchase requisition is actually intended for the approval. So this will make no sense that you have a purchase requisition and you don't have a workflow. So you can just configure this workflow. The settings are very much simple. You can have a completion policy of single approver, majority of approver. If I select on all approvers, then everyone is going to approve it. If anyone disapproves it, then the process will fail. Percentage majority means the majority of them, if say yes, okay, you can have that set to yes, you can approve. Single approver means if only one approves it, the process is treated as approved. So this is the way, like, you can have these various, you can have some conditions, you can have some escalations. So these are some of the things you can have, some types. This is like the type of messages we just saw. On clicking submit, we received certain kind of messages. So all of these settings are pretty much easy to do. So anyway, so this was, I just wanted you guys to have a brief idea of like what workflow is, like how to add workflow, how to edit workflow, how to view workflow. Because as a consultant, you should know these things. I'll click on a level up. It's nothing simple, just a start and finish, and this is where the settings are defined. Also, you can have a very complicated workflows, probably like adding some sort of condition here, some manual condition, but we are not going into those details, and that is very much a rare case. This is usually what people do, because everything is built into the system. You just have to drag this element here, start, finish, there you go, just give who is going to approve. So this is how, you can approve it. You can edit this and click on save and close. So this is sort of thing. So I'll just click cancel. So my main target was for you guys to know that there is something called workflow, and this is how it works. So now, since we have this workflow enabled, and as you can see that I am the approver here. So I am one of those approvers who can approve. So what is happening now is, so I'll click on submit. So I'll click on submit. So once I click on submit, then a background process will run depending on the system load. If the system is free, then within a minute or two, that process, that batch process will run, and the person who is going to approve will be able to see the approve and reject buttons. But if the system is super slow, maybe you system will need some more time, maybe few hours. That depends on system load. I'll click on submit. So now my purchase requisition is going to be submitted. So you can add your own remarks here. This will be please approve this. Just write anything that you want the approver to see. We click on submit. Once this is submitted, okay. So right now, if I see here, so I'll have nothing, but I can recall the workflow, which means don't make or just cancel the workflow or the workflow history. You can view at the workflow history, because right now this has gone into the batch processing, so it will be processing this workflow as soon as the system becomes free. So the person, the user, that second user, and me, I'm going to see that approve and reject buttons here. So this usually happens, for example, today I'm submitting it, maybe tomorrow the approver is going to see. So anyway, let me try to refresh this if that batch process runs successfully or is it taking time. So I click, I think it's still taking some time. Otherwise, it will show me approve or reject. So you can do that. You can click on approve and your purchase order will be created. So this is the process, how this sort of thing happens. Okay, so the batch process is running pretty fast on this system. So you can see that is giving me the options that I can approve, I can reject, okay, and there is something more that I can do. I can request the user, okay, just change something. This is not up to the mark. I can delegate it. I don't want me to approve, but I want someone else to approve. I'll click on delegate, I'll select that user, and the delegation process will happen. So this is like how this sort of thing works. So once I click on approve, let me try to approve it. You can type your own comment. Okay, approved. This is not a mandatory step though. I'll click on approve. Now again that batch process will run and you will be able to see this in the approved lists. So if I click on purchase requisitions, purchase, so approved purchase requisitions processing. So release. So once you have approved, you can release those purchase requisitions and create purchase orders from that. So here you will find all the purchase requisitions that were approved and the batch process ran successfully and will be available here. So right now we cannot see anything here. Maybe some batch process is stuck. Otherwise, after a few minutes, you will be able to see that particular purchase requisition available here. Then all you have to do is select that purchase requisition and click on purchase order. If that item is already having a vendor specified on the card, automatically a purchase order will be created. Otherwise, it will also ask you kindly select the vendor for which vendor you want to create this PO. So this is how the purchase requisition process works. So I just want to ask you, like, did you get an idea of how this thing is working? Am
No.
I audible?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. I
So just
did.
wanted to ask.
Yes, I understood what you're talking about.
Yes.
Uh, the process. Yes, I understand it.
Okay. Because this is like everything that you, nothing more than this is required. So this is a place where like a batch job will run, and right now, so that job ran successfully. I think this one is stuck, or maybe because of server load, cannot see anything here. Since this is a test environment, so not an issue. So you'll find your approved purchase requisition here. Then all you have to do is just click on purchase order, and all those details, along with those details, the purchase order will be created. So this is like the type of the final step, the purchase requisition step. So in this way, like we covered request for quotation and purchase requisition. So with this, all of our things related to purchase processes like purchase order, request for quotation, and purchase requisitions are now covered. So I think we'll take a quick 10 minutes break and then we'll be talking about purchase agreements, which are another integral part of of procurement and sourcing process. And I think we okay, so we'll come back after 10 minutes. Just a quick 10 minutes break. All right, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey guys, I think we can start now. I'm gonna share my screen. Am I audible?
Yes, Vipin. Yeah.
Okay. Is Nelson there?
Yeah, um, might be joining. So, I was just asking in this space if we go, so probably we'll be, when will we come to the customers this week or next week?
I think we'll come to customers probably by tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I mean the day after tomorrow because tomorrow like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like an
yeah.
alternate day
Tuesday.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tuesday we'll come with customers. I'm pretty much sure because see after we finished almost I guess we finished quite a lot till now.
Okay.
Yep, we finished till here. So almost six is delivered. So right now I'll try to cover agreements and invoices and payments. So with
Okay.
that, our purchase will be done. Then charges, which is common, that will be done. So today I hopefully like we'll be able to do these eight. Then the day after tomorrow, charges and sales process. Yep. So the day after
Okay.
tomorrow will be not an issue. Also, would like to request you, go through that purchase video.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
that
will, yeah,
you will
do
get
this
like
week.
because yes, because this customer is exactly opposite of what vendor is. So if vendor is clear to you, trust me, like customer is like just reverse direction, nothing new.
Yeah, I know.
If you
I
know
am
how to create,
actually working on customers
okay,
and in my project. So I am doing the whole data migration for customers, customer trade agreements, and the sales
okay,
orders.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's good, that's good. I guess we have Nelson or not. Hey Nelson, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so let me start with the purchase agreements now. So, guys, any idea what purchase agreements are and why do we use those?
Yeah, it's the pricing or an advanced pricing that we used, like based if they have some I mean, already some prices fixed based on each vendor. Like there is a vendor agreement that for this price there is a negotiation that happens and that is captured.
Exactly. Purchase agreements. We use purchase agreements because if we are going to buy some good amount of material from a certain vendor, then what happens is like a vendor is going to provide us some favorable pricing because this is the way, this is a deal that we make. See, we are going to buy it from you. Otherwise, we also have other vendors also who are going to provide us. But then there's a kind of a deal which is done that a commitment of a quantity. Okay, you buy this quantity from us within this period interval, so then we'll give you these prices along with some special pricing and discounts. So this is the reason we use the purchase agreements. So it's used in almost every business organization. Let me just navigate here. So in Dynamics AX, guys, we have the purchase agreements, and we can have four types of purchase agreements. Although the first purchase agreement, which is called product quantity commitment, is the one which is most often used because there we are saying we are going to buy specific amount of quantity and like with special pricing and discounts, but they all differ in a little bit, so they have a little bit of the differences. But let's see what the difference is. So product quantity commitment means you are committing to buy a specific quantity. Means first first these product quantity and product value means you are going to buy, you are talking about a single item number. You are going to talk about a specific product, that I'm going to buy this specific product. And in case of product quantity means specific product and specific quantity. Let me say I'm going to buy iPhone of let me say 100 units. So this is the product quantity commitment. and every unit it will be of, like, let me say, usually it is $700. Every unit will be of $500. So this will be a type of product quantity commitment. Product value means I'm not going to specify the quantity, but I'm definitely going to specify the total price about which I'm going to buy. So it's saying like I'm going to buy iPhone from you for $50,000. So that is it. I'm not going to specify the quantity. So quantity field will be disabled here, unit price field will be disabled here, only the amount. So this is product value commitment, that too for a specific product. Product category value means you can buy any product from a specific category, and that too of type product value. Means, let me say, I'm going to buy mobile phones, maybe of any brand, Apple, iPhone, whatever, of net worth, let me say $60,000. So that will be a kind of product category value commitment. And value commitment means I can buy any item of, let me say, $12,000. So any item from my database. So these are the four types of agreements which Dynamics 365 will provide you. And this, the first one is the most commonly used. I've never even seen anyone using product value, and forget about these. No one, I think rarely someone is using these. Maybe it may be a possibility in the retail market, but I haven't seen in my experience. This is the only one people are using, product quantity commitment. It actually makes more sense that you are specifying a quantity and per price for that quantity. Okay, so but since we have these, so it's a good thing that we should discuss all these types of agreements. Very simple process to create a purchase agreement. So first I'll walk you through the screenshots and then we'll perform it in the Dynamics 365 system. So purchase agreements can be launched using this new button. So you have to specify the vendor. Obviously, since agreements are specific to vendors, specify the vendor. If you want to have any kind of classification, for example, normal PA, if you just want to group them for reporting purpose, you can click on the purchase agreement classification, select a particular classification, click on OK. Now same process, header view, line view. In the lines, you are going to add the lines, the quantity that you want to buy, the kind of discounts or the vendor is going to provide you, and the unit price. So net amount will be calculated automatically. But if you try to have a product value commitment, then quantity will be disabled, unit price will be disabled, only net amount will be enabled, because there you are like committing, okay, I will buy for this amount of dollars I'm going to buy. Maybe I'll specify the prices and quantity by myself. Okay, so this is the kind of difference that you will encounter while adding value to the lines, depending on the type of commitment. So product quantity commitment, you're going to enter quantity, unit price, and discount. So once done that, you're going to click on confirmation. Also, you'll have to enter the expiration date. If you don't enter that, the system will throw an error. Once you click on confirm, we have to make the agreement effective. We'll click on OK. And in this way, we will have our purchase agreement officially made with that particular vendor. So now how will you know that what purchase orders are created standalone or what purchase orders are created from a purchase agreement? So once you do that, then you can click on the release button. So now whenever you need to create a purchase order which you want that a special pricing and discount should come into action, so instead of creating purchase order on going to procurement and sourcing and create a purchase orders, the creation process will happen from here. So this new release order, so this button will become active once the purchase agreement is active. So when you click on release button, then all you have to specify is the purchase quantity. So this purchase quantity you will specify, you will click on OK, and a purchase order will be generated. A purchase order will be created. Then you can go to that purchase order and start with the rest of your process, confirm it, receive it, invoice it. So this is the way how you can create a purchase agreement and how you release a particular purchase order from a purchase agreement. So any kind of doubts or questions till now in this process?
Mm-hmm. No.
I guess we are good here, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now another thing is, tracking. Like, how will you track what lines are released from a particular purchase agreement? So for that also X provides a very nice thing, so-called fulfillment tab. So fulfillment tab means it will always keep dynamically updating itself. So remaining is 1950 because I released a 50 quantity just now, because I created a PO of 50 quantities. So 50 released. So out of those release, is anything that is received? Not yet. So it will not show anything. If these 50 that I created 50, and if I confirmed PO and received those 50, then this released will become 0 and received will become 50. Out of those received, let me say that product receipts. So let me do the invoicing of that 50. So then this will show 0, this will show 0, and invoice will show 50. So in this way, you will always have an idea of what exactly has happened to all the purchase orders which are released from this particular purchase agreement. Not only this,
Uh,
but you will, yes.
I have a doubt. Oh, if there is a quantity of 2000, if I release now 100 and I release after a month or 2 months, I release another 200. So how
Hmm.
that capturing will be there? Like, will it be a cumulative, or can I
Yes,
have the
it will always, here you will always see the cumulative data. You release 50, let me say after a few minutes I released 100, then it will show 150 released. And of those two POs, how much quantity was exactly received? It will keep updating itself. So not an issue, because whenever PO is created from here, it gets linked through reference numbers. Purchase agreement reference number will be linked into the PO. So whenever you update the PO, these values keep on updating. And whenever you are releasing a purchase order, all those orders you can see in the release order lines. And from those release order lines, you can also have the invoice lines. So you will be able to see all the lines that are invoiced. So in this way, every tracking will be there on this purchase agreement. It will keep updating itself dynamically, cumulatively, every time you do any kind of changes in the receipt or release or invoicing. Is your doubt clear now?
yeah.
Okay, so this is what happens, and I think now we should hop onto the system and see how purchase requisition is, sorry, purchase agreements are made. So this is relatively a very simple process. So let me start purchase agreements. So you have purchase agreements here also, and you have purchase agreements in procurement and sourcing. Purchase agreements. Sort of there. Let me try to open it from here only. purchase, purchase agreements. Let me create a new purchase agreement. I'll click on new. Let me specify the vendor. We'll select that same item. Selecting a vendor. This is a kind of classification you want for reporting purpose. You can have your own classification, not an issue. Document title, not mandatory, but still. Okay, so I think this is enough. So I'll click on OK now. So this is the header view, line view. You can see right now this is on hold, which means it's not active. So when we'll click on confirmation, we'll make this purchase agreement active. So I'll click on add, and this is the type of purchase agreement that you want to have. So if I specify product value commitment here, see how the things changes. Specifying the site and warehouse. So now I'm not able to specify the quantity, it's grayed out. Not able to specify the unit price, it's grayed out because it's product value commitment. I'm able to specify the product because it's a product value commitment, but only I can specify the net amount. Let me say $50,000. So this is how the things will work. Okay. So anyway, We'll select the product quantity commitment. So it's actually throwing me an error that fill this. Let me remove this. Select the product quantity commitment. Click on add line. Try to add the line item. Site sorry, site warehouse. So I want to buy 100 units. Let me say with a unit price of 550. A discount percent of, let me say, 15%. Expiration date, let me select today, 1 year. So once I've done that, now you can see the fulfillment tab is showing remaining 100, release nothing, receive nothing, invoice nothing. Okay. So and also these lines are not enabled. Why? Because we haven't released yet anything. We haven't confirmed, we haven't invoiced anything. I'll click on confirmation and make sure the agreement is effective. Click on OK. Once that is done, we have purchase agreement confirmations here. Now I'll try to release an order. So this is like I'm trying to create a new purchase order. Let me say I just want to create a purchase order of quantity 10. I'll click on OK. And we can see purchase order 968 has been created. Let me try to release another purchase order. The scenario you were talking about, a quantity of 20 I want to release. 969 has been created. Let me have a look at the purchase orders that are created. Let me filter the vendor. Cannot see those. What
Was
exactly you mentioned?
968 and 969.
Yeah, let me 968. Let me see this. 969. Okay. I think something has gone wrong. It should have filtered with vendor account. It's behaving weird. Okay, let me see. It's all purchase orders only. Actually, people keep editing a lot of setups and configurations in this environment. This is a test environment, so I just don't know what exactly went wrong here. Ah, got it. Guys, can you see what is the problem here? You cannot find an Apple vendor. See, this is a different legal entity.
Yeah.
I was just now explaining you
Mm.
the difference is how to hop onto another legal entity and add those. So I'll just duplicate the tab. Even I was surprised why that vendor is not showing. Even the numbers are not showing. The legal entity was different. So now we are in the same legal entity. I'll select all purchase orders. And let me select the vendor now. 968, 969. The first one, you'll have the quantity of 10, and the second one is the quantity of, I guess we made that of 20, right? 20. Also, if you click on general, you have a look at the related purchase agreement, it will give you that purchase agreement, and this is how tracking is done. You will not find these lines on another purchase order that you create manually, but this is related to the purchase agreement and it is showing that it is related to this one. So this is how we create the purchase orders from purchase agreements. And if I just try to, let me process this, let me confirm this purchase order. So here we can see now that remaining is 70, released is 30, received is none, and invoice is none. Also in release order lines, you will find all the POs that you released. So you released PO 968, PO 969, and all the details are present here. Okay, so this is how tracking is done. Let me try to register and do a product receipt of this one. Since it is a batch controlled item, so we need to specify batch number. Let me click on confirm registration. Once that is done, let me try to do a product receipt. A random a random material receipt number. I want to receive the registered quantity. It's totally fine. I registered that already, 20 pieces. I'll click on OK. Once that is done, let us have a look at what it is showing here. So can you see how this 20 came, subtracted itself from here and is showing now here? So this is how the things keep dynamically updating. So now we know that 70 are remaining, out of which it means 30. A PO for 30 was created, out of which 10 is not yet received and 20 is received, and none of them are invoiced.
Yeah.
So if you click on invoicing, then it will remove itself from received and show you in the invoicing tab. So this is how, this this fulfillment tab, and you can have this kind of tracking going on. Let me try to invoice this. Let me try to post the invoice. And we got an error. Let me see what the error is. Vendor invoice cannot be posted until the review process. Okay, so I think we have another workflow here. We saw that workflow button. So it now it is going in pending invoices, or maybe someone edited, and we are now having a workflow in the, yeah. So there's a workflow here. So we need to, so this is, see, this is another workflow here. So someone added this workflow. So we are having, now we cannot post the purchase invoice, but prior to the posting, now we need to submit this to someone, and that person will approve, and then only, like, once this is done, then only you'll be able to, post this invoice. So anyway, I was just trying to post it. We can leave it here. So once this
Uh,
gets posted, yes.
how can we see who is the approver, or where we can like just if this kind of error comes, like what would be
So
the
so So if this kind of error is coming, the best thing is you should know the workflow in action. Either you can just go and disable that workflow. Otherwise, if you just can go, and I showed you how, the
yeah,
approvers are marked. So you can edit
yeah,
the workflow and make yourself the approver. Or if there is something, if there is something called workflow history that comes here, and there is a button called delegate, you can delegate yourself. But if you have
oh
the rights, then only you can do that.
yeah, 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 that
So
you
other,
have
okay. So this is how the things work. So if you can make yourself, you can delegate yourself. Since you are the system administrator, then you are having all the privileges. So when someone submits it and you are just waiting, come on, I just want to approve this because no one else is going to approve it. So that workflow history, a tab of workflow history will come here. Click on that workflow history. All whatever the workflow has gone through, those listings will be shown. Just navigate down to the bottom, and there you will see the delegate button. Click on
Okay.
delegate, assign yourself. After a few minutes or so, as soon as the system becomes free and the batch process runs, so it will give you that that option of approving. You can
Option.
just click on
Okay.
approve, and there you go. Okay. So this is how, like, so once you do this, so all this fulfillment tab gets updated, and once you invoice, the
Can we
invoice
do
lines will also. Yes.
a product value commitment agreement?
Product. Yes, value commitment also you can do. So during the value commitment,
No, I mean, can we
so
do an example now?
yes, sure, we can do an example, not an issue. So I'll click a value commitment here. So let me select a vendor account and classification. I'll click on OK. Try to add that line, product value commitment. Net amount, let me say 50,000. Expiration date. Click on confirmation. Marking this as effective. And here you will find something different. If you click on release order, you won't find any line, right? So this is a little bit confusing. So all you have to do is
Yeah.
just click on create.
Oh, okay.
Once you click on create, a purchase order will be created. It will be linked, and there you can define, add a new line, define the prices and discounts. So only that thing will be considered. So now let me do one thing. So right now here you can see, here you will not have the quantity. Here you will have the value.
Yeah.
So once you do that, let me try to create. I think that was 970. It should have been
970.
970. Okay. So now I'll try to add a line. Let me add a line here. So I'll add that line. Once
Okay,
I
so
do
you
that,
add the lines after. Okay.
yep, because this is product value, it makes a little bit of confusing to the user. So not what I'll do, because now I have the liberty, because quantity and unit price is something that I am going to define. As far as purchase agreement is concerned, it is only going to track the total amount. So it's like it's on my hand. What should I define? Let me say I can buy 100 pieces of like $2 each. So not an issue. It's totally fine. So let me put some reasonable. I'll say I'm going to buy 10 pieces, and unit price is 60,000, which is almost passing this one. So I want unit
Yeah.
price. Let me say 1,000. So it will become 10,000 now. Okay. So once this is done, let me click on save. Let me click on confirmation. I'll confirm this. And we can see the release is 10,000. So this is going to basically look only for the price instead of quantity or anything else such, right?
Mhm.
And if you look
Perfect.
at the release, if you look in the release order lines, so it is going to show you, okay, so you actually release this one and everything will be updated. So you can see everything is dynamically updating because they are linked together. A unit price and quantity is also showing here, and net amount. And this is what this agreement is mostly concerned about. Okay, so this is how you can
Yeah.
create And so the you can also create product category value or value commitment, although like I've never seen anyone doing that. But anyway, these two were the most important, and that two product quantity commitment was like somewhat which is most commonly used. Okay, so with this now, I think we are done with the purchase agreements, and only one thing is remaining in purchase process right now is having a look at the various vendor invoices and settling those invoices with the help of the payments, right? So this one thing also we need to cover, and then like our whole procurement module will be finished. And from next session, we can start uh, with the charges, which are common to both. So if you understand charges for purchase, charges for sales are like absolutely same, nothing different. So anyway, so first let me have a look at the invoices which are present here. So you can have a look at the invoices for the, for example, on accounts payable if you go. So in the invoices, these are the open vendor invoices. Open vendor invoices means these invoices are there that have a credit amount and that are waiting for a payment, right? So this is the amount not settled. So invoice amount. So we can settle these transactions. We can mark the payments. So this is how like we are going to do. So today we are basically going to talk about the paying the vendor, doing the vendor payments. But prior to that, we should also know that pending vendor invoices. So these are not the invoices; these are like the invoices that you were trying to edit, but anyhow you could not post those invoices, right? So you can just navigate these invoices, click on edit. For example, right now I was trying to post up an invoice, but there was an approval workflow. So on that will come into a draft mode and will show the open vendor invoices here. So this is one thing to note. And also, I've noted there is some issue in this system with these invoicing. So, especially for invoicing, we'll try to do that in Dynamics AX, which is exactly same as in on the Dynamics 365. But there is some issue here. So, what I'll do is I'll show you this in the Dynamics AX system. It should not be an issue. The menu item names and the location is exactly same. So, just feel free to try it in Dynamics 365. So, with that also I want to talk about a specific scenario. For example, you brought certain items, you went into market, brought certain items that you found certain raw materials or consumables. Then what? Then obviously there is a credit balance standing for the vendor. So what you are going to do in such sort of thing? You going to create a purchase order, do the product receipt, because that you already did. So most of the times, but we still need a purchase invoice, right? Without the process of purchase requisition, RFQ, and purchase order, because you just went into the market and purchased something, and now there is no use of just having that. This is a very rare and scenario, but still, there must be a way to create a vendor invoice without using the purchase order process. So for that, we use something called invoice general. So this will take care of that. So invoice general is used, and you can create a new general. You can post the invoice, and this will act like an original invoice. It is original actually, but it hasn't gone through the purchase order, receipt, and invoicing process. So you just create an invoice here. So this is the time when we can make use of these invoices. So this is also a scenario to consider. So,
Yeah,
but there
and
are
can you later relate that invoice with purchase order receiver?
We cannot do that. Here we cannot do that. It is just like a standalone purchase order only. It's like a only invoice.
Okay.
So you cannot relate it to the existing PO, because if you are going to relate it to the existing PO, you must definitely have a PO on the first place. So this thing is not being taken care of in Dynamics 365. It's just for a simple scenario. You want to skip the whole process, because in the end, after PO, what we are getting? We are getting an invoice, because of which there is a credit balance for the vendor. So especially for that purpose, okay, it's fine that okay, create an invoice manually. It's like creating an invoice manually. So let me have a look at the open vendor invoices, and we'll see how this works. Let me see. Okay, so we have this vendor Apple here. So there are some invoice 1, 2, 4, and such time. So this is another. Okay, so invoice 1, 2, 3, and they all have some of these outstanding balances. Oh, let me take this vendor 03. Let me take its invoice, copy. Let me filter this first. Okay, we have to press Control G here. So we can see this vendor is having these are the invoices present. So 1, 2, 3, and all of these things. What I'll do is I'll create a new vendor. So these are the invoices when we created purchase order, did a receipt, created an invoice. So these are those invoices. What I'll do is I'll try to create another invoice, and then we'll make payments for both the invoices. So let me create an invoice general. I'll create on new. Let me select the invoice general. So I'll select the invoice general and click on. So these are also things. See, these are also if you are starting from scratch. So these also you have to configure. So if I go into the view details, hold on. If I go into the view details, so these are the general names that are again configured. So you have to configure these general names before you can use this. So there are various general types. So this is of type vendor invoice recording. A lot of things are there. If you are going to pay the general, for example, vendor payment, this is a general we'll be using for vendor payment. It will be having a type of vendor disbursement. And we'll be talking about how to create these in general ledger when we'll be talking about the general ledger processes. So anyway, just wanted to tell you that this is also something which is very much configurable. So you can create your various general types. So only one type I've created for invoicing. So it is showing me just one type. All right. I'll click on OK and click on lines. So this is the type vendor. Then I'll have to specify, okay, for which vendor you want to create an invoice. I think this was for this one. So here you can specify your invoice number. Let me say manual invoice. Whatever your invoice number is, you can write the description, whatever you want. This is basically the particular fields when we talk about bookkeeping. Okay, then after that, credit balance. Obviously, vendor is going to be credited because invoice will make a credit balance standing. So let me say I want it's a $255. So this is going to be credited. Then what is going to be debited? So this is one thing that needs to be taken into account, that whenever you are going to specify credit, then obviously you'll have to specify the debit account. So offset account means a debit account. So let me say I brought something for 255. So if a vendor was credited, I guess the inventory was debited. So I can select a ledger, I can select a customer, vendor type, bank, fixed asset, whatever. If you select ledger, ledger accounts will be showing here. If you select bank, bank will be showing here. Let's click on ledger and let me say inventory raw materials, perhaps maybe the right thing to do here. Inventory raw material. Okay. So this now I can click on post. You can click on validate to make sure your general is okay. So validate will check the voucher entries if everything is okay or not. So I'll click on post. The system seems to be running slow since it is installed on my laptop. The same process will happen, the same sequence will happen if you try it in Dynamics 365. Okay, the voucher is posted, although it gave me a warning that document data has not been specified. Right now I'm not concerned with that, so I'll click on close. So this is how you create a manual invoice for a vendor. So this was an important scenario that I thought that you guys should know how to configure this, because in almost every implementation people asked me, because they were working on some legacy systems. So they always said, see, I can create an invoice in a matter of 1 minute. So how we'll do this in Dynamics 365? So this was the way out. So if I look at the open vendor invoices now, Open means payments are not yet made. So I can see we have this invoice standing here, okay, of 255, and total invoice amount 255, and not yet settled 255. So now what we'll do is we'll try to settle these invoices. So I'll click on accounts payable. I'll click on, or you can directly go from here. You can click on settle open transactions, click on vendor payment general. Of payment general will open, which will settle these invoices. I'll show you the exact path from where this form will be launched. This is in the payment general. I'll click on new. I'll click on vendor payment. Now it is showing me the vend payment because this is of type vendor disbursement. I'll click on lines. So the first thing that we need to do is select the account. For which account you want the invoice payments or invoices. So I'll select my customer, I'll select my vendor. I don't want to specify any kind of description, or you can specify description. Payment for whatever that is. So here now we have to link that particular invoice with this payment. So we'll click on functions, we'll click on settlement. Now this is going to launch all the invoices of this particular vendor. So these are all the open invoices. So it is asking us, okay, so for what invoice you want to make payment? I know I want to make payment for this last invoice that I manually created. You can make payments for anyone, depends on you. This is the one I created. So let me select, click on mark here. Once you mark this, now the payment and invoicing will be knocked off together. They'll be like in a marking state. So once that marking is done, you can click on close, and you can see that the debit balance 255 is already there. But here we have another scenario. What if I don't want to pay the vendor at once? Well, I can edit this, not an issue. Let me say I want to pay $100 now and 155 maybe some other time. So I'll click on 100. So it's saying that amount is different from that of marked transaction. It's totally fine. It is different, I know. So now this is the thing that is the vendor is going to be debited. Okay. So we are going to debit the vendor. So the ledger account, let me say I want to debit the vendor, and I'm paying this from, let me say, a bank. So I'll specify the bank. So these are some temporary banks that I made. So I'll click on OK. So once that is done, I'll click on post. Once this is done, our vendor payment will be done. Okay, number of vouchers posted 1. And now let me have a look at open vendor invoices. So we can see that this invoice, which was 255, is now showing 155 amount not settled. As soon as I make another payment of 155, this line will vanish from here. And this is how you settle the vendor transactions. So this is how vendor payments are being made, and you can manually create vendor invoices and you can settle them using these. So any kind of questions and doubts of like how the vendor payment is done, this is relatively very simple. Like there is
Yeah.
nothing extra here.
Very simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is self-explanatory how you can. So now I think we've covered everything related to procurement. All the lectures which were meant for the procurement, we've covered that. And from next session, we'll be covering charges and the sales order processes. Okay, so as far as homework is concerned, guys, homework is very simple. Whatever like we've discussed in this session, try to create a request for quotation yourself. Try to create it for multiple items and send it to multiple vendors. Try to accept one, reject others. Second one is create your own purchase requisition. Try to approve it, and release it from that released. So some batch process was not running in our system today. Otherwise, that line would have showed up there, and you can just click on create purchase order, and you can create it on your own. So try to create one RFQ, one request for purchase requisition. Create a this purchase agreement of product quantity and product value, and just see how the things go on, and finally try to make the vendor payment. So once you do this, so this is the only homework. Whatever we've discussed is the only homework that we'll be like I'll be suggesting you. If you encounter any kind of doubts or questions or queries, we'll definitely discuss it in the next session, which is I think the day after tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess I'll now quit this session, and I'll upload this video.